and welcome to the Driven Career Podcast. This is a space where we talk about professional life and personal development to inspire you to overcome the challenges and grow in your career. In our episode today, we are going to meet with Berna. She's been building her international career here in Canada. And besides our conversation talking about her journey, she's also going to talk about soft skills. This episode is going to be so important for you to learn how to leverage and thrive in the workplace anywhere in the world. I can't wait to share this conversation with you. Let's go to the episode. Hello, Karen. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. I'm very thankful that you're here and also very excited about our conversation today.
So am I. Thank you very much for having me here.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with you introducing yourself. Just give us a quick overview of who you are and what do you do, Karen?
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much again for having me here. Karen Berna. I have been living in Canada now for 10 years, but I'm originally from Brazil. And then in terms of professional background, I've got a background in people development. Right now, I'm really focused on, there are two front lines that I tackle. One is consulting for companies in an HR processes and people skills development, as well as on the individual side. I'm focusing on three areas of our lives, right? The three end areas, as I call it. So purpose, career, and the relationships. My background is in psychology. I am a Jungian analyst. I do mentorship for developing those skills that I mentioned before and virtues, also focusing on behavior. So um, helping people resolve, all kinds of frustrations that they carry in one of those areas, if not the three of them. But the biggest chunk of people I actually work with, I did not choose that audience, but it's actually, somehow it came to me, is what I could call a so-called empowered women. So women,
Wow.
yeah. So people just like us who build their career, they are very strong, they're very independent, but somehow they feel that something is missing. So between that line, that age gap of 35 to 40 something, that are looking for more.
Wonderful. Well, we attract what we are now. Do you agree with that? And you're inspiring woman, Karen. So that's probably why you can see things are kind of like changing the course.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm really grateful for everything I've been through in my life, and then if I can use it as a tool, to support people and inspire them. So let's make it a purpose.
Let it be. Amazing. Well, just before I start diving into all the aspects of our conversation here, which I'm very excited about today, you mentioned you're from Brazil and you're in Canada today. Could you share where you live and what is the major things that you love about the place you are living at today?
Yes. Well, I am in Vancouver. I never thought that I was actually be one. I never thought one day that I was being in Canada. It was such a long story. It was like one of those meant to be stories. And yeah, I've always been living in Vancouver. I love this place because, well, not only is it extremely one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been. I've traveled a lot, but this place is unbelievably beautiful. You have the mountains, you have the beach, and then, this contrast is absolutely amazing. But the most important thing for me is the lifestyle. Some people call Vancouver very boring. I don't know, it's because
What?
yeah, I know. They say Vancouver is boring. For me, it's completely the opposite because I am a morning person and I enjoy
Yes, me too.
nature. Yeah, I enjoy nature very much. I come from São Paulo and it's like one crazy city. For me, it's having all the good things that São Paulo offers, but in a small town, that feeling of a small town, more suburban in a sense. So then I feel connected with people more closely, and safety. It's I can even compare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will not comment on that, but yes, I can only agree with you. And it's so nice. Thanks for sharing, because this is just nice so our audience know where you're speaking from. And it's just, I think it's just nice to share like the great things about the places we are living, right? Because you made a decision, you started a career internationally, and I think it's a great place to start about the place we're living today. Okay, so now thinking about your journey. So now let's dive in into your professional journey here and some aspects of your international career. Can you share with us what were the most significant moments that helped your decision to expand your career internationally?
Yes. So, wow, I don't even know where to start. I picked, I majored in international trade. So this is actually what I majored in. And the reason why I decided to go with that specific profession was because I knew that I wanted to just live somewhere else. I just wanted to expand, just literally go borderless. And decided for international trade because I knew that it was a profession that would give me opportunity to work anywhere in the world. And then I started learning English at the age of 12 as well. So I was self-taught during some time. Then I started, taking some, courses and things like this. And then I moved to Australia as well. 15 years ago, I lived in Sydney, and that's how I actually ended up in Canada. But for me was that I knew that what I wanted to do for my life and with my life was something much bigger than myself. I really I wanted to be able to not only learn more about other cultures and other countries and travel, but it was no, I really want to become someone who can tackle more, who can broaden the reach, of what I do. And when I ended up moving careers, I moved careers a few times, but luckily now I found myself in my purpose, what I want to do. So when I moved more into this people development portion, and decided that it would be my career, that's when all those things came together, fell into place. So for me, living elsewhere was an opportunity to expand more, to learn more, expand more who I really am by exposing myself to the things that I was not used to other cultures, literally like changing, who I was, passing
Yeah.
through that process of, well, I don't know if it happened to you, but when you live abroad, one thing that happens to most of us, I see this, it happened to me, most of my friends and clients that are international, we all go through the same process. You lose your identity. It feels like, I don't know, because I'm no longer that person that I used to be before. The place is different. I am becoming someone else, but at the same time I still have my own essence. And then
Yes.
the language itself, right? So that was actually one of the biggest, in the beginning, my first years, I would say the first 2 years, other than of course getting used to the climate, right, and the cold and all of that. But it specifically was finding myself, I mean, not letting myself not losing myself in this process, but at the same time letting go of who I used to be, and being open to become who I wanted to be without having that feeling of losing my own identity. So language was, I was already fluent in English when I came, but I was worried about my accent. And then I was
Mhm.
worried about not being able to use the white words, or to be as, funny in the same language and communicative as a public speaker. I wanted to be just come here and go like, oh, this is what I can do in another language, and it doesn't happen, right? So but even going through all those things for me was very challenging, but a really fulfilling shift, just because I could decide who I wanted to be, and I could decide who I wanted to be for other people as well. And now being able to do that in 2.5 languages. I say half because I'm halfway through getting my Spanish as well. So
Okay.
able to do that is just extremely fulfilling and expanding, right? And then being able to challenge yourself in a completely different culture.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that, Karen. I think we, at in the beginning, we feel lost, but just to realize that we are actually discovering ourselves because you're just stretching, you're really living your comfort zone. You're not hanging out with your old friends anymore. You're not around your family. You're not around, the people that you grow up with. And you're just meeting new people, new culture, and trying to be funny in another language. It is super challenging. We always joke, I am funny on my first language, because there are a lot of things we try to say in our second language that doesn't really make much sense. And it just feel like you are stuck a bit, but that it's part of the process. It's part of the process. But I have to just add to what you said that, um, the personality piece, the identity piece, as you go through the process, you find yourself back and you're just even better. You can never go back to who you were before. And I think that's the conflict that many of us that go through this experience have this process. And we're always trying to figure out where am I or who am I in this space. It's just really getting into this understanding of this new identity. You're just adding another identity to yourself,
That is
right?
true. That is true. And then, if you allow me just to add to what you were saying, is that it's normal, right? We in terms of I'm not gonna get too technical in the psychology portion, but if we looking into how our psyches work, humans are always tapping into different sources. Let's say like sources, right? To build who we are and to define, justify what we are doing, things like this. So the more superficial we get, which is our personas, the more suffering we get, right? So that's the part where I think that hurts the most, because we identify ourselves with all these personas, all these characters that we built along our lives. So I
Yeah.
used to be the professional, the public speaker, the Brazilian woman back there that used to have this kind of life, and be this person with the family. And then all of a sudden I'm here in a country that from for all the levels, from the physical, mental, psychological, even spiritual, very different outputs and inputs, right? So then, um, now having to, first of all, going back to Maslow, hierarchy of needs, just going back to the basics. My body needs to adjust
Yeah.
to survive in a colder place, how to find homeostasis and be happy with it. And then, so there's this whole physiological things going on.
Yeah.
And then you have the mental thing going on as well, and the psychological. And then that persona no longer exists. But then during this process was exactly this. I did not want to build a new one. I didn't want to
Mhm.
build a persona. I wanted to find out not who I was, but what I was. And that process came with a relationship, a long-term relationship breakup, because things changed. And then there were I went through my middle age crisis, which is, I can say it's really painful. It is, but it's one of the best things that could happen to anybody, because you just realize that you are mortal, right? Literally, middle age crisis is when you get to the point where, okay, I have a more past than future, or at least I am in the middle. There's no turning back. So what am I going to do with this other half, or maybe less than half of a life that I have? So, yes, that portion was very crucial for me to go through, come being here, uh, moving and all. It was really crucial to define those things and actually give a different direction to even to what I was defining as my career and
Mm-hmm.
my talents and my vocation in use, and not only just working to have a job, to have a title, or to pay the bills, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is super important. And as you were going through this process, Karen, what can you say today that were the biggest challenges and lessons learned, especially when we are talking about the professional context and the workplace? I think I'll just go back here. So, what were the biggest challenges and lessons learned in establishing your professional presence in an international market?
Yeah. Well, definitely the first one was I'll talk about the challenges, and I'll connect to the challenges to the lessons as we go. So challenges for sure was self-esteem and self-confidence, because all of this process that we just spoke about, it kind of gets, you don't lose it, it doesn't get lost in a way, but it gets really murky.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to go back to build that self-esteem, that self-confidence, there is one thing that I don't know if you've heard of this, but there is some one thing that I call the abandoned or the stray dog syndrome. So
No, tell us a lot. Tell us about it.
so maybe if you come from a first world country, it might not make too much sense, but maybe you traveled. So if you go to certain places, you see a lot of stray dogs, right? Or you have like people sometimes abandon dogs in the street, so they are just stray. So what happens to that dog is either the dog is gonna get extremely needy, and then it's gonna be following you, and literally in their eyes you can see like, pick me, take me with you, please love me. I am good, I am not this bad, I am not this, or it goes the opposite, get so self-protective that attack is the best protection, right? So get
Mm-hmm.
really aggressive and judgmental, things like this. So this process I went through, being those two extremes. In the beginning I was the very needy dog. I wanted people to love me, I wanted them to accept me, I want them to see who I was, I want them to see the same way people back home, where I was, they were they did see me. So, but it doesn't happen that way, right? Because people do not need pityness. They need to be inspired, right? So you can only
Yeah.
gain that kind of love and again attention if you're actually inspiring people and not actually putting yourself in the victim mindset.
Karen, would you say that this theory about the dog would be related to rejection?
Oh
Do
yes.
do you think that is the first feeling that probably, when we are living in a new context in a new country, venturing into a new workplace, that comes with this feeling with rejection first, and that's how, or maybe that's why you have these reactions. Would you say that could make sense?
100%. 100%. And we humans are territorial, right? So once you abandoned your own territory or you were kicked out of your territory, you needed to find a new herd. You need to find a new group. You need to belong. So that sense of community. So yes, feeling like I don't want to be a stray. I just don't want to be an outcast. I want to belong. And
Yeah.
in society, in a workplace. When I got my first job, I was working for a recruitment agency, and um, I didn't mention this, but I also teach at the Vancouver Film School, career prep, and then performance skills development, and then we talk a lot about how preparing yourself for interviews. And I was literally said, this is actually something I teach that I went through.
Mm.
You, if when you hired, it's being hired is not actually the most difficult part. Is actually keeping your job. The same as starting a relationship. Finding someone is not hard.
Yeah.
It's hard is finding someone who actually worth your time and in keeping that relationship alive. But when I was in this first job of mine, I was extremely I was within that mindset of the stray dog, that I couldn't believe how could you invest on me? How could you believe in me? I cannot. I don't think I'm able to do this. And then I day in and day out, from the beginning to the end, for first 3 or 4 months, I was like in misery, to a point that I was like literally dripping sweat. My clothes would be like even wet because I'm sweating out of stress. Fear of being rejected, the fear of being seen who I wanted them to see who I was, feeling of not belonging. So major challenge in the beginning. So for that one specifically, the main lesson is, so this is how I turn that into a lesson to my students. You just have to show up and do your best, because if they have already invested on you, it's because they already believe in you.
Yes.
you know so that was what I was telling myself. I'm not here to be better than anyone else. I am not even here to be the same person I was before. I am just here to do my very best today. And more importantly, get out of my head and pay attention to what I can absorb from what's going on around me, as opposed to what I can prove, what I can just, you know what I mean? Just like, I need to make sure that I am doing my very best by also paying attention and learning, instead of just making sure that I am loved. I'm coming from a very bad, very wrong place. So, uh, knowing that if the opportunity was given to me, it means that I am fully capable of, completely mastering it.
Yeah, but it is so important to know your own value whenever you go through this process, right, Karen? Especially going through a recruitment process. When you have this great opportunity to get hired, having a little bit of lack of understanding on that side, I think that's where it comes down to what you mentioned, that how do I keep my job? Because that will come back. That will come back as you go through all the challenges in the workplace, in relationship with your colleagues and your leaders and so on. So that's why I just wanted to highlight what you said about knowing your value, because that is going to make a lot of difference and is really going to help you to leverage your interview process, your skills to show up why you deserve to be in that position, and also how you can keep succeeding in that role. Does that make sense?
It does. It absolutely does. And then I think this is the part where, unfortunately, most of us lack information and tools and understanding. Uh, it's not. It's more often than not when we ask people, "What are you good at? What are your talents? What do you think you are completely, where you thrive?"
It is a hard question.
It is. It is, because we don't learn how to look into ourselves. Every time we think about ourselves, it's taken as self-absorption. Oh, you're so self-absorbed, or you're just full of yourself.
Mm.
No, 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 no. It's actually the opposite. It's actually learning about who you really are. You were given a set of tools, like a toolbox full of tools in there for you to use. And that's where you're going to find not only happiness, but you're going to find the success you're looking for in your career, and the progression and the growth, all of that, because you are using the right tools towards building something that can, take you there. But you are 100% right. Not knowing our values, not knowing our talents, not knowing our shortcomings, and how we actually can overcome those shortcomings with our own talents, how we can offset that, how we can find a balance, right? Because again, perfection does not exist. And if there is anybody out there waiting for, or expecting that they're going to hire someone who is going to be perfect, bring everything they expect. It's they just need to go back to the drawing board. Something is definitely missing.
Yeah. And that's why we hear that saying that you're hired for your technical skills, but then you're fired because of your soft skills.
Yes. Oh, this is, I could say this is the only truth about our careers and the job areas, or the professional areas as a whole. Because yes, technical skills can be just acquired if you take your time, you study, you go enroll on a course or something like this, you're gonna get those. But then how you actually gonna use those in favor of giving to that company, to that employer that you are working for, to yourself and to those around you the best way possible? How are you going to use them in the moments? Because when everything is good, it's awesome. Oh, this is all amazing. But
Mhm.
what when we go through some sort of a crisis, when there is a
Yeah.
major change coming up, when you are going through something in your life that you cannot, you know, juggle with your professional life as well? So that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about the behavior, the soft skills, developing virtues. Because if I could make a comparison to a computer, the technical skills is the software, the interface, what you can see right now in the software you're using. But when we talk about the skills and we talk about the virtues and everything else that happens, is not only the coding behind, the script built to make this software run, but also the architecture that was put together so then that software would display in that specific way. And more importantly, if you change one thing in the code, or if you change one thing, if you decided the architecture is going to have a slight change, the interface is going to change too. Interface is the behavior.
Yes. And nowadays, we can even go further and think about the trends and what is happening today. We know that in even 2 or 3 years from now, there are a lot of jobs that won't exist because that will be replaced by AI, that will be replaced by robots. So, what makes you different? What makes you different to really succeed in a workplace? I believe that more than ever, we will need to leave out our humanity,
Yeah.
because there's so many technical skills, so many technicalities that can easily be replaced by artificial intelligence. But the human connection or the human power of a human brain and the behavior and the relationship, that's something that can't be replaced.
Very much, very much. And you know what? I dare to say that this is my own theory. Okay, I haven't seen it anywhere, but I dare to say that we've had some special eras, and like so we had the agricultural revolution, and then we had the industrial revolution, and then we had the technological revolution, and they are keep saying that we are still in the tech era.
Mhm.
I dare to say that we're actually starting to walk into what I call the psychological or even a spiritual revolution, because now more than ever we have a less need to focus on our technical skills, so we can have more time and energy and focus on our human skills
Yeah.
that were left in the shadows for decades. And that's why so many people, especially in the workplace, and it is even bigger, it is almost twice as much within women, the depression rate, because of lack of a purpose, because of a lack of understanding of the values, as you were saying, identity. So people are no longer looking for, like, a job is just not as fulfilling anymore because there's just so many other tools that can do your job, but there's one thing that there's absolutely no machine is going to be able to, which is being a human. And we need to relearn how to be humans, specifically in the workplace.
Yes.
Leaders, please, please make sure that you are being a human leader, not
Yes.
just a manager.
Yeah. There's so much we could dive in into this as you're just speaking, Karen. Like so many things are coming to mind. But yeah, maybe we need to do another round. We need to have podcasts number two to cover more of this. But yeah, there's so much we need to cover here in terms of, as you were mentioning about the pyramid, the Maslow pyramid. We will always make sure that we have our safety, your safety net, you have a job, but at some point you need to find your value and your purpose. And that's where many of professionals get stuck because we focus so much for a long time of our lives, going to university, learning all of, we have to learn and get the diplomas, get the certificates. That's great. We are really learning the learning. I'm a fan of the learning process. That is absolutely essential for your career growth. But I have to say, and that's why I thought that would be amazing to have you here, Karen. Um, we cannot leave the soft skills aside. This personal development is so important. Our behavior in a workplace with any type of relationship, it is important. How we communicate, it is important. So these are the things that we cannot neglect to learn and improve in ourselves every day.
Absolutely. If you allow me, can I just mention a little bit just about something that I do? I taking just the opportunity to actually, let you know, and your viewers know as well. This soft skills is so important. There's a group mentorship that I ran that is called Not So Soft Skills, especially because they are soft, but they are not so soft because they get really hard. They are really difficult. But why they are difficult? Because most of what we've got out there, as you were saying, you go to a university or you take a course here or you read a book over there, not all of them, but majority, they are more focused on the skills itself, the behavior, all behaviors that are displaying that that is specific or potential skill. So for example, communication. So there's a lot of understanding of that communication is important, that this is how you should communicate, how to use assertive communication, how to use non violent communication. These are all really good, but it's not changing the reasons why we are still in a society that means of communication are getting even overwhelming. The amount of communication going on is overwhelming, but we are not communicating at all.
What do you mean by that?
So, for example, nowadays you have all the social media
Mm-hmm.
available. You have a lot of information out there. You are communicating
Yes.
with people, you're talking to people, you're reaching out to them, they're reaching out to you. You have what we are doing here, right? We, passing on knowledge, experience, and then trying to raise awareness and a conscious to people. Then you have books. Then you have WhatsApp. Then you have X now. I think it was a former Twitter. Then you have, if you in a workplace, you can have Teams, and then you can have Slack, and then you can have emails, and then you have a phone calls, all these many ways of a communication, but people are not talking.
Mm.
You know what I mean? They are just saying things, they are just dumping information, or they are just dumping whatever is going on in their heads, but there is no real communication going on. So this is why I'm saying focusing on communication does not mean that you're going to learn how to communicate and then you are communicating right. You just start maybe talking more the ways you were about the things that you were talking about before in a better or even worse way. So you're just talking more about it. So in a mentorship, what we do, we talk about all the foundations. Remember, the architecture and the coding is going really deep into those things. Exactly, because my purpose is to make sure that I can be a multiplier of
Mm-hmm.
people that are going to generate some sort of impact. So a lot of leaders, you want to learn how to be a leader. You want to learn all the skills you need to have to be an inspiring leader. Great. But let's first build your, and funny you say pyramid, because I actually use a pyramid the methodology is built in a pyramid. So you have to build your own pyramid, chamber by chamber, to make sure that you get to the point and be able to develop those skills and virtues, because the virtues come first. The skills come after. So it is extremely important. Forget.
Yeah, and especially when it comes down to a type of communication when you're dealing with conflict.
Oh yeah, exactly, because then you see how things are way more, they are not so black and white. That's another joke I like making, and some people get it, some people don't really like much, but I say nothing is so black and white. There's at least 50 shades of gray.
Oh my goodness.
There's a lot of things in the middle. So yes, conflict resolution, you need to, of course, learn how to communicate, but you need to take a step back before. You need to learn how to receive feedback. And
Yeah.
then for that, you need to take a step back. You need to be strong in your skin to be able to have that self-confidence and self-awareness. You need to be able to receive that feedback, then to be able to communicate. If you are the one giving feedback, you need to master the skill of giving feedback. But before, you need to learn how to develop empathy. But before developing empathy, you need to develop humility. Before humility, you need to understand what prudence and temperance is. So you see how things are so much deeper than we think.
Yes. They're all connected.
They are connected. If it was so
Yeah.
easy to develop those, we wouldn't be here talking about the same thing that has probably been spoken about for the past, what, 50 years?
Oh
Since the
yeah.
Industrial Revolution, when the machines started and people started getting into offices, same problem.
Yeah. That's crazy. And that's why I'm very fan of mentorship programs or coaching, especially when we talk about coaching. I went through a coaching program and that was eye-opening for me. As you're mentioning, we learn a lot when we are reading books and so on. But when you go to the reality in a workplace and you go through relationships, you need to try. And how do I execute all the things that I'm learning? The reason why I like having mentors, I always encourage everyone to have mentors, to have good friends or honest friends that can give you a honest feedback. It's that we are trying things, different. We are trying to apply our knowledge. Sometimes that will go well, sometimes not. But that's the great thing, that when you have someone that you trust, you can share your ideas and share the things you're trying. You have someone to kind of like, I got your back. You're doing a great job. Or maybe that's not exactly the way to go. Let's refine this. That's where I see professional coaches or mentoring an expert to walk alongside with you. That's the great help. They are the ones that they have done that. They have done their mistakes, and there is nothing better than walk with someone that already know where you should not go,
Yes.
right? There are a lot of learnings and pains that we go through in our lives. So that's always what I encourage, not only this type of relationship in terms of coaching or mentoring, but really associating with people, successful people, people that you admire, that inspire you. That can be podcasts, that can be books, people that you know, people from your workplace that inspire you. Manage exercise your networking, your strategic networking. get a time to have a coffee with them, learn with them.
Exactly.
That just adds so much to our own learning. And then that's how we grow.
Exactly. And honestly, we can learn from anybody and anything. So one might be thinking right now, listening to this and go like, well, I don't know, but my network is not as great. People are not so knowledgeable in what I want to know, or I don't feel like I don't know how to open up. I only, or for example, my family, I only see like some screwed up situations. This is reach. This is a treasure chest. Open it up because you learn from people's mistakes too, from your
Yes.
own. Right? We're so afraid of making mistakes, but these are the ones that actually gonna move you forward faster. Because when you win, when you always winning, you're not stopping to see and revisit and to do something different, right? This is what in a coaching process, in a mentorship process, or if you're going into more even deeper in analysis process, is all we talk about. How can we analyze the situation in a way this is going to be something to propel you to your future and not to drag you back and hold you back in your past, right? So, yeah, your
Yeah.
network, whether you judge it as good or not so good, you have a lot of, there's this, as I said, it's golden. Use it.
Yeah. Especially nowadays, I think we are in an era of so much, as you said, information. And there's so many great communities out there, online communities. There are a lot of gatherings. Even here in Vancouver, I see there are a lot of communities. I see they're getting together. The networking is growing. So I think all of these exercises, all of these things that we go through and really put ourselves to through the fire, that will translate in a good behavior, and that will translate who you are when you are at the workplace or dealing with any situation. That's how you're gonna demonstrate how you face challenges
Yes.
in the workplace,
Yeah.
in your with your family, anywhere, right?
And to what you're saying, when you go into those events or you're going to talk to someone, regardless, right? There is a analogy I like making. Imagine like the same way, for example, you have a coat or you have a hat, right? So then when you go to those places, wherever hat of judgment, assumptions, your ego hat, just take it off. Just hang it at home, then you walk out of the door. Because the problem is people tend to say this, and then I get this from the students. Oh, but those network events, they are not so fruitful. There's sometimes you go and then you don't get much out of it. I'm like, maybe because you were not paying attention to what was actually being said and what was going on around you. You were so hung up on your own thoughts and assumptions and judgments and biases around people and yourself that you were not paying attention to the opportunities that were out there. So go learn as a kid, behave like an adult.
Yes.
You
I
know,
like it. Yeah, I love it. I
that's
love what you're saying about the assumptions. That is a roadblock. We create assumptions about everything, about everyone, but that is related to who you think you are. That's related to the value that you see in yourself. A lot of times that maybe you go to an event, a networking event, and you feel like, oh, no one is really talking to me. I'm being ignored. I'm rejected. And you're creating assumptions. Just go and try. I love what you said. Take off your hat, go talk to this person, learn about them. It's not about you, it's about them. Learn about them.
yes, that is key. Talk about them, ask questions. People love talking about themselves. They
Yes.
do. Humans are in a
Yeah.
in a very positive way of trying to put it, but we are all very egocentric. We love our happiness, but we also love our drama, right? Just pay attention to
Yeah.
how people, when they talk, they're always talking either about their everything that is going really good in their lives, or they just drawn into this drama of their lives and they want to be there because it's warm and cozy. So Exactly. Talk to them. Make it about them. And then through what they are saying, you getting bits and pieces of information that is going to help you put your own puzzle together, right?
Yes.
You don't go there thinking that after 5 minutes talking to someone, they're going to give you a job. No, but listen to how they got where they are, what they did to, in their journey. Learn from them. Ask them, well, what do you think I should go? Because people also love giving advice. Make
Yeah.
them feel special.
There's one thing that I read once and that really caught my attention. That was a simple thing that is just saying people's names.
Yeah.
Have you noticed when you say, thank you, Karen, instead of just thanks? Thank you, Karen. And when you say people's name, that just sounds like music. That's something so simple, but I learned in the past. And that is true. It is so powerful. And I love when, you just feel valued and recognized, right? So
Yeah.
that is a little thing that I read once and it's so simple, but so powerful.
Cool.
Our time, it's coming down to the end, Carrie. It's been amazing. There's so many things that I would love to talk to you about. But just so we can close our conversation, what can we say that would be the practical steps that a driven professional can take to develop their soft skills to increase their chances of success in the global landscape?
Okay. So I always start with self awareness. There is no other way. Remember, we said earlier, if you don't know your talents, you don't know your vocation, don't know your shortcomings, you don't know the architecture and the coding behind your interface, your behavior, you're not gonna get any far. You're gonna try to change the behavior, but your intentions are always gonna be the same. So the results are always gonna be the same. So do a I love working with the SWOT analysis, an
Yes.
individual SWOT analysis, right? So you do an inventory of your strengths, an inventory of your weaknesses, how they connect to each other, and how you can leverage both into opportunities and minimizing the potential or already existing threats that you have, in your life, or in relation to the goals, related to the goals that you are working towards. So definitely learning more about your own yourself and your strengths and your talents. Learn. So it's a foundation. If there are four pillars, one of the pillars of anything, any success in any area in our lives is relationships, right? Because we are relational beings, different than other animals. So everything is built out of relationship, whether we're talking about a romantic, a professional, a friendship, it doesn't matter. So learn what a relationship is, how you develop that relationship, what skills you need to have, and what you already have or you missing. Build compassion, empathy, right? Learning to understand what motivates you, what moves you, and what actually motivates and moves other people. So then you can find the middle ground, the connection, and then that's the match, right? So if we were to build a online connection, like online dating for career, that would be the match, right? So when do I should swap right or left, right? So finding those things too, and the differences between certain groups, right? um and then I said before, communication is extremely important, but I find it the way it is right now, it's overrated because it's misinterpreted. So learning how to communicate by learning how to dialogue. What are the foundations, the basis of real communication, dialogue, persuasion, building confidence? And I'm not talking about manipulation. I'm talking about persuasion. Persuasion is influence. If you want to be a leader, you need to learn how to persuade and how to influence people. Right?
Yeah.
We don't want anybody telling us what to do. I want people to do things that I like what I see, and then I want to mimic them. Right?
Yes.
Uh, and always being very truthful, respectful, and as I said, practicing dialogue with yourself and with those around you. Those are, I would say, are the basics, the very, very, very basics. You can start building your house from the roof, but it's not going to be sustainable. If you want to build a sustainable mansion, you know, then you need to start with the foundation, and those are definitely the main ones.
I love that. I love the foundation as well. Yeah, I love the term foundation. I think that is so important. We see so much going on out there that I think sometimes we are just thinking about how can I decorate the house, make it beautiful. But first of all, you need to build the house, start from the foundation. I love it, Karen.
Awesome. I'm glad.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, we need to do this again. We'll definitely need to dive in and talk much more about all of these topics. I think there's so much that we talked about today that we can unfold and break down like in parts. So that's going to be great to have another conversation again soon. Thank you so much for sharing so much insight with us today, Karen.
Thank you very much again for the invitation. Happy to come back whenever you want. I just lose myself when I start talking about those things because this is just as much of a passion. So happy to do so, and thank you for your insights too. Very, very grateful for this exchange that we could have today.
Yeah, amazing. No, I know you. I know I follow you on LinkedIn and all that. So I know how passionate we are about all of these topics. So I was like, this is gonna be great. We have to share all of this. So thank you so much. I wish you so much success in your journey as well, Karen. Thank you. And for our audience, thank you so much for staying here with us as well. I want to take a moment to thank you for deciding to spend this time with us. I hope you felt inspired and you learned what being a driven professional means. And if you'd like to drop here some comments or questions, we can always address some of this conversation in our next episodes. And also, if you like this type of conversation, make sure you give us a like or rate our podcast on Spotify. So the platform knows that you're enjoying our content and our work, and that will just support our channel. I hope you have a great week. We'll come back next week with another amazing episode. And until then, stay driven.